Hey everybody, and welcome to the Hacking for Defense course here at the University of Florida. My name is Captain Mackenzie Gage, and I will be going over some basics of the Department of Defense and the intelligence community for you guys. And hopefully this will kind of outline the distinct culture that the DoD and the intelligence community has, and help you guys, based off my experiences as a captain in the Marine Corps, navigate these challenges and address the projects that you guys have here in front of you. So we're going to go over 4 distinct videos that we're going to break out along the lines of the agenda here. So you have the DoD organization and culture, that's this current video you're watching now, the intelligence community organization and culture, various innovation in the DoD, and the DoD acquisitions overview and resources. So understanding how the DoD is organized and the culture that the DoD has and the distinct subcultures will help you guys as you work through user interviews and you work with your different program sponsors. Understanding where they kind of fall from the strategic level down to the tactical level, and then understanding where your users work will really help you engage and develop the right questions so that you guys can engage in an efficient and effective discovery process. Looking at the highest level of the DoD organization, ultimately the DoD reports to the president, right? So the military in the United States works for the civilian government. So what you see here is you have the departments and then you have the services. So there's 3 different service departments: Department of the Army, Department of the Air Force, and Department of the Navy. Each of those have distinct services underneath them that you're probably more familiar with: the Marine Corps, the Navy, Space Force, Air Force, and the Army. The whole goal of the different departments is to train, man, and equip to get sailors, Marines, soldiers, airmen, and their weapon systems ready to go forward and do good things when necessary. The combatant commands that you see there, they operate. So for the last 20 years, we've been in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the commander of a U.S. Central Command that we'll get into in a little bit, they've been responsible for the operation of those forces while they were forward. And then the Joint Chiefs of Staff are the heads of the different services, and they oversee those different services and then come together under the chairman and advise the president on military operations. So diving deeper into the hierarchy of the DoD here, up top you see the Secretary of Defense, and then underneath you have each of the military departments. And so like I said, the Department of the Navy has both the Navy and the Marine Corps. This is a little out of date. So there's the Department of the Air Force with the Air Force and now the Space Force. And then you see the Unified Combatants Commands actually report directly back to the president. So, you know, the commander, U.S. Central Command reports to the president and coordinates with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff for any service-related issues. And then you see that there's all of these unique defense agencies. So probably the most well-known of which is DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. They work directly for the Department of Defense, supporting all of the services within their scope of innovative technology. This slide's important because all of your sponsors and all of your users fall somewhere in this slide. And we'll provide you some resources to help you understand exactly where your users and your sponsors do fall within this hierarchy. So diving a little deeper on the different services, you have Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, Space Force, Coast Guard, and the National Guard. So the Army, the oldest service, focused on ground combat operations. It's also the largest service. Then you have the Navy on, above, below the water. So there's an aviation component to the Navy, the submarine forces, right, operating subsurface, the nuclear reactors type folks. And then there's the surface warfare community. And then the Marine Corps, also in the Department of the Navy. So Navy and Marine Corps both come up to the Department of the Navy, but they are separate services. They maintain amphibious and ground combat units, as well as an aviation component. So the big saying with the Marine Corps is that they're the 911 unit. They're always ready to go forward at a moment's notice. And then the Air Force focused on air and space capabilities, and now that space capability being split with the Space Force as of December 2019. Again, both the Air Force and the Space Force going up to the Department of the Air Force. The unique thing with some of the commands we'll be looking at in the next slide, the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, and Air Force are all responsible for a different element of Special Operations Command, and SOCOM is a different functional combatant command. So you'll see, if you ever have a project sponsor in that realm, you'll see a little bit of a difference with the Marines, airmen, soldiers that work in those capacities specifically. So the combatant commands are organized geographically, and we'll see a map of that here in a second. And then there's the functional commands: Special Operations Command, Strategic Command, including cyber, and then Transportation Command. So I've had the fortune of serving inside some of these different organizations, and what you'll see is the cultures are different amongst them. The folks that work at different geographic combatant commands will operate slightly different. You'll see a pretty distinct culture in folks in the special operations world, and you'll see a distinct culture among the different services as well. So again, like I said, there are combatant commands organized geographically. So you have NORTHCOM, SOUTHCOM, INDOPACOM, AFRICOM, CENTCOM, and EUCOM. The majority of your sponsors are looking for a solution that will probably operate in all of these commands. Some of them might be deployed forward and looking for a specific solution to work in a specific place and time. The Marine Corps likes to say we operate in every climate and place. And as you look at the next slide, talking about where we are worldwide, although this changes all the time, you'll notice that we're spread out pretty significantly across the world. So something has to work in the winters in Norway, in the mountains of Afghanistan, in the deserts of Saudi Arabia, and the jungles of the South Pacific there, for whatever we're looking for in some pretty adverse climates. So as you look at your solutions and you're talking to your users, keep this in mind that people will have different experiences deploying to different climes and places, whether that be Central Command, SOUTHCOM, INDOPACOM. There's a variety of experience spread throughout the DoD. So talking about the DoD rank structure, the vast majority of the DoD are enlisted, and those are the guys on the ground, guys and gals on the ground, executing tasks. So they come in out of high school. Their grades E1, which is a private first class in my service, the Marine Corps, through E9. Of that, about 56% are non-commissioned officers. So when you make it from E1 to about E4 to E5 for most of our services, you become what we call a non-commissioned officer. And at that point, you transition from purely executing to you now need to lead and train your subordinates. These folks kind of come up through the ranks. They've been around for somewhere between 5 and 20 years at this point. And they're the people that we as officers really rely on to drive things and get things done. Then you get down to warrant officers, about 2% of the force. And these guys and gals are 2% of the force because they're extremely highly trained in their specialty. You'll see many of them have decades of experience in their field. Warrant officers 1 to 5. Their promotions are pretty competitive and it's competitive just to get into that field. So as an example, in the Marine Corps, a lot of our ground combat and infantry type units have something that we refer to as a gunner, which is a high-ranking chief warrant officer that is a technical SME on weapon systems. There are warrant officers in different other communities that focus on other things, sensors and the like. And then you have commissioned officers like myself on there. It says plan, lead, and organize. So we're fortunate enough to go get a bachelor's degree. A lot of us will then move on and get a master's degree. You see 01 through 09. So myself as a captain in the Marine Corps, I'm an 03. And what you'll see is that we call our ranks different things in the different services on the forthcoming slides. So a captain in the Marine Corps is an 03 versus a captain in the Navy is actually an 06. So I am a captain in the Marine Corps. I currently work for a Navy captain there with a vast experience. I've been in the Marine Corps for 7 years. The captain that I work for in the Navy has been in the Navy for close to 30. So here we see a comparison of the different names of ranks in the different services. So in the Army and the Marine Corps, E1 is a private, but in the Navy, that's a seaman recruit. Typically, as you go through your user interviews, you'll see mostly E3s and above, and probably mostly NCOs and above as you're talking to the folks, the guys on the ground with the guys and gals that have the experience you're looking for. You'll notice some significant differences amongst service culture. So in the Army, all NCOs, so we're talking E5s and above, are referred to as sergeant. A staff sergeant, E6, is referred to as a sergeant. In some of my experiences, so when the Marine Corps does joint operations with the Army, in the Marine Corps, we go by rank. So if you're a sergeant, you're a sergeant. If you're an E6 staff sergeant, you're a staff sergeant and referred to as such. So sometimes when we do things with the Army, soldiers will call a Marine gunnery sergeant a sergeant, which doesn't translate well. So I would, when you encounter someone of a specific rank, use that full rank initially, and then they'll kind of correct you and talk you on. The Navy does something even more interesting where they involve something called a rate. So their MOS factors into what they're called. So you'll have a petty officer first class. So then that would factor in their rate, it's called. So a hospital corpsman is an HM, so you'd actually call them HM1. Again, with the variety of ranks throughout the DoD, I would ask how they would like to be referred at. There's some subcultures in the DoD where they're going to tell you to call them Steve. I would defer to them in those situations. Now, looking at warrant officer ranks, you'll notice that the Air Force doesn't use warrant officers. You'll notice warrant officers are a lot more common in some services than others. You'll see if you're working with a Marine Corps project, you will probably encounter a warrant officer at some point. If you're working on a Navy or Army project, you may not. The Marine Corps just has a larger percentage population of warrant officers than some of the other services. And again, that just gets back to different distinctions between the different services. Now looking at officer ranks, so myself being a captain in the Marine Corps, you see there that that's an 03. My boss is a Navy captain. You see its abbreviation looks a little bit different, right? The difference between all capitals and a capital C for me, Navy captain being an 06. As you get more senior, you get more responsibility. So, and you become more of a generalist. So when you talk to a general, a brigadier general, for example, in the Marine Corps or the Army, they are going to have a significant amount of operational experience, but they are now in charge of many large facets. So when you're looking for the technical details and looking to do technical questions, you're probably going to want to target the warrant officer population, the enlisted population, and then when you're looking at large operating concepts and things like that, when you're talking to the more senior officers here on this diagram. So not everybody's a soldier. That's a big thing. So there's soldiers in the Army, sailors in the Navy, Marines in the Marine Corps, airmen in the Air Force, and then guardians in the Space Force. So a big thing to default to is just service member. You can also go with rank if you are able to get their rank as you're working through phone calls or emails leading up to an interview. But defaulting to service member to refer to a large population, typically we won't encounter any friction there. And now let's talk through the DoD culture. So the DoD has a very unique culture that most people don't have the fortune to interact with. It's extremely hierarchical. So you'll see kind of most units will be able to produce a kind of chain of command type diagram pretty quickly. And you'll be able to see who works where based off rank, based off titles. It's big on discipline. So you'll see some folks asking for permission before they maybe speak to you after you reach out to them. And that's okay. It's just part of the DoD's culture. The DoD prides itself, both civilians and active duty service members, on being professionals, on really knowing their stuff. So as you kind of work through the questions, feel free to engage in the technical nature of things. You may have to translate things from the DoD jargon back to something that makes sense in the civilian sector, in the fields of engineering or computer science. And feel free to ask them to explain that. Most of us soldiers, airmen, sailors, Marines know that we have a specific language that we speak that may not be fully intelligible to a civilian. So we tend to use a lot of acronyms. So make sure that, if somebody's using a bunch of acronyms like AFO, Advanced Force Operations, ask them to explain, ask them to not just, tell you what that is, but, AFO, Advanced Force Operations, that's the folks at the tip of the spear, the first people to go into a country or an area, have them define what that is. And you'll see a lot of subcultures in the DoD. So the culture that you're going to encounter with a fighter squadron is going to be different than the culture at a squadron of C-130s, the large transport aircraft. The difference in culture between a logistics battalion and infantry unit, and then the difference in culture between different warfighting communities. I've kind of mentioned that special operations has a unique culture, but so does aviation, and so does the submariners in the Navy. And so you'll see even within the same service, there'll be significant differences in the cultures, not in a bad way at all, just different. It's like moving from one company to the other. Here's some additional resources that you can look to for information on the DoD. These are mostly just official .mil websites. I'm also available as a resource to kind of direct you guys, and there should be some project specific PowerPoints out there for you guys to use to understand your users and your sponsors a little bit better and how they fit into the strategic picture. Hopefully this video was useful for you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one.